Hello guys and welcome to another Farthest Frontier video. So in today's video we are going to be talking all about farming. Everything there is to know about farming, all my tips and tricks and different crop rotations that I use in farming. Basically I'm going to give you as much knowledge as I possibly can about farming. So let's jump straight into it. So to get started off, to find the farming you need to come into the food production, and then it is here right at crop fields. So it's right at the top. To create one, you need to drag it into a certain space. I think the minimum width is like 12, and then so the minimum is 12 by 5, and that costs 2,640 labour. I'd suggest starting with a 12 by 6 or 12 by 12 if you've got enough workers already, and then once you've done a 12 by 12, then expand it. So you can click into the actual field. You can click this button over here, expand crop field, and then you can just expand it by another 12 by 12, which makes it 12 by 24. That's the maximum you can get. So for a 12 by 24 field, don't do that. At the minute, with the new 0.9.1 update, I'm managing to get away with only 7 workers on a 12 by 24. So you can see the previous crop that I produced. I planted 1,716 and I actually harvested 1,931. So that has got something to do with the yield factors as well, but I'll explain that in a minute. So I'm managing to get away with 7 workers, but normally on a field this size I'd probably have 12. The sort of rule of thumb that I normally go off is 12 by 12 I'd normally have about 6 workers, and then obviously double that for a 12 by 24, and then if I only had a 12 by 6 I'd have only 3 workers. So that's the sort of rule of thumb that I go on. That does take into consideration though that if you have fields very close to each other like these 4, all of the 7 workers that I've assigned to this field, once they've harvested all of their crop, they'll jump onto this field and then help all these guys out, and then all 7 of these guys will jump on, so then 14 of them will jump on to help this field. See how this field here I've only got 5 workers assigned, but you can clearly see I've got 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 workers on this field. That is because some of the workers from here or here have gone to help out. So it does make sense to have all the fields close together because they all chip in and help each other out. So you can get away with having 2 or 3 workers, maybe even 4 workers less on each field. So that's how I'm getting away with 7. Don't take this, if you're watching this video a couple of weeks or months after I've posted it, don't take this too serious, because this may change. I've only noticed with the new update that the farming has got quite powerful, so you don't need a lot of workers. They may keep it like that or they may not. For those of you that may not know, the hunting, they've nerfed it, so it's a lot less. You normally would probably get about 500 meat from here, maybe even 600, maybe even more from certain sort of spawns, but they've nerfed it a lot, so they do a lot less. So they've sort of made hunting a little bit worse, and they've sort of made the production, the workforce needed on fields a lot better. So that's just something to bear in mind. Right, on to the next one. We're going to talk about what you actually see, so the interface when you click on it. So you've obviously got crop fields, then you've got crop rotation in this sort of section here. Then you got all the seasons in the top here, which align directly with all of these. You've got 12 slots, just like you've got 12 months in the year. So each crop, when you click on it, it will show you what crops you can produce. Now different ones give you different things and do different things. I'm going to explain that in a second. But you don't want to have a certain crop in the wrong season. So you, for example, this beans, this crop here, when you hover over it, it'll give you the information. So this one here, as you can see, has got 0 frost tolerance. So I don't want to put this in the cold section at the beginning. You can't place anything here, nothing would work. So you can't actually slide that over anymore. You can slide this over, but you can't slide that over to the right anymore. So you don't want to put, for example, you don't want to put beans at the beginning because they'll all freeze. But its heat tolerance is 10 out of 10, so it's very good. So you want to put that at the height of summer. For me here, I didn't want to put it right at the end because some of the farmers sometimes they don't have enough time to get all the beans, so it gets wasted. So I've taken it just a month and a half off the end, so that gives them enough time to actually take all the harvest from that field. So yeah, you want to bear that in mind when you're choosing where to place something. Now these turnips here, these got a frost tolerance of 10, but only a heat tolerance of 5. So for example, you don't want to put this in obviously the hot period, you want to put it in the cold period. So that typically, hopefully, makes sense. Anything else, for example, peas, or maybe not peas, some stuff like, yeah, flax is good for both. You can choose it in the heat or in the frost, so it's entirely up to you, but it's quite big. See how that section is quite big? It will take up more space in that year. So for food wise, you'd have beans, you'd have peas, you can have turnips, carrots, yeah, you can have sort of cabbage and possibly clover. I can't remember if clover harvests anything. I don't think it does. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I don't think it gives you actual food. No, so that they're sort of your food ones. The rest have a certain role. For example, the flax, you harvest it, and then that is produced, sort of material required for this weaver building is 8 flax. That makes the t-shirts. So it doesn't, you don't get any food from that. That's just flax. That is a sort of used as a production item. So bear in mind that the fields aren't just for food. You have to have certain fields for food and certain fields, like this one here is more for food. This one here is purely food. And this one here is a production building. Here I'm cooking, I always say cooking, it's not as it is planting and sort of harvesting. I'm harvesting wheat on this one. That is also used in the windmills to make flour. And then the flour is sort of required to make, where's the bread buildings? Yeah, here it is. Then the flour is required to make bread. So that then goes through a chain of things to make more food. So it does make food, and the bread is more beneficial for you than some of the other stuff on here. So technically this one does make food, but that's only once you've got the other production buildings up and running. Next we can talk about, so that's just a sort of little insight to it. The next sort of section, you've got yield factors, and you can see the yield factors for each crop. But if I click off and back on again, so no crop is selected. So this is just the yield factors, fertility, weed levels and rockiness of this field. So this field here, this is all the stats for it. You want to get fertility as high as possible. That is how much you're going to actually yield from that certain crop. Weed levels you want as low as possible. Again, that will impact your crops. Otherwise, if that's high, you're going to have less crops. Exact same as rockiness. If rockiness is high, you're going to have bad crops. You're not going to get as many. So, for example, this crop, this beans that I've just done last year, I planted 2,574, so 2,500, and I actually harvested 3,000. So I had a good year. I harvested even more than I planted. So that's perfect. That's exactly what you want. And as you can see up here, I've obviously got 26 months worth of food. And I've got 14 months of spoilage, but that's because the vegetables, as you can see, I've got just under 19,000 vegetables. So I haven't actually got enough people to eat all of them. So that's why some of them are going to spoil. So it doesn't matter how many storages I've got. I've got enough storages to put it all in, but I haven't got enough people to eat them foods. So I've actually got 26 months worth of food. So I've got a lot of, obviously, food, as you can tell. But anyway, so I'm harvesting quite a lot from each one. And that is because on each field, I've got good fertility, low weed levels, and low rockiness. Now, to get good fertility, low weed levels, and low rockiness, you're going to want to do a crop rotation of this. This is the one I use. As you can see, I've been using this for a couple of months. You don't need a lot of workers. I only put 5 workers on mine, but I've got a 91% fertility rate, 0 weeds, and 0 rockiness. Now, there you go. You don't harvest anything from the clover. So the actual clover, you don't get anything. That's not food. So the beans is food. Perfect. The clover helps reduce the helps increase, the fertility and reduce the weed levels. And then the worker also reduces the weed levels and reduces the rockiness. So you need the worker for reducing these two, and you need the other two to help boost fertility. This gives you food for 1 month during the year. This is year 1, this is year 2, this is year 3. So you get food. This helps increase fertility, and this helps reduce weed level and rockiness. So if you have this crop rotation to start off with on every single field, bearing in mind you don't want to have, let's say you have 10 fields, you don't want the rotations to be like this 10 times. You might want to change the other ones, so you've got a worker, then clover, then you might want your beans on not on the same field, on a different field. So you might have one field looking like this, the second field looking like that. The reason being, if you have all your workers on all 10 fields at the same year, like month, then you're going to make no food that month. So you want to sort of rotate it. So you're making food. Let me do an example. So then you want here, you're going to want anything really. You want this, this, and then this. So you've got food on this year. No, sorry, I messed that up. Did I mess that up? Yeah. So you're always producing food on each year. So when this year isn't producing food, this one is. When this one isn't, this one is. When this one isn't, this one is. You know, so it's sort of rotated so that you've got workers on different sort of parts, and you'd have this on one field, this on a second field, and this on a third field, but of all of the same. So hopefully that bit made sense. I don't know if it did or not. I don't know if I was rambling on there. But yeah, let me just pause again quickly and put that back to how it was. So that's what I'd stick to anyway for your very first time. Whack that down as your crop rotation and let it get to something looking like this. Then you can change it to whatever you need to be, and I'll go through that in a second. This is your soil mixture for a crop. So click on a certain crop, and that is the soil mixture you're going to want. So if you're producing sand and you're producing clay, this you don't really need to worry too much about, or I don't anyway, but it can give you a bonus. So if you see this line all the way down here, as you can see, the target soil bonus went down by 20%. So you don't want it over there. You don't want to be added anything. You want to keep it roughly where that line shows, or in the green. So I'll probably keep mine there. So now the current soil bonus is 10%, and the target soil bonus is another 10%. So that is much, much better. My estimated yield is 1,137 out of 750. 852, can't even see. So that is good, obviously. And if you click on the little arrow, that shows you exactly what it is. Estimated yield, you got your fertility, 91%, weed levels 0, rockiness is 0, and the soil bonus is 10%. So I'm getting 73 positive factor from my fertility. I'm getting a 70 positive factor from weed level, 69 positive factor from rockiness, and 73% positive factor bonus from soils. So then all in all, I've got an average yield of 852. My positive factors give me another 285, which then goes to an estimated yield of 1,137. So that's how it works out. That's how they work it out. So if you had all negative factors, instead of 852, you'd have, instead of 1,137, you'd have lower than 852. Hopefully you guys are sticking with me and this makes sense. I know I'm giving you a lot of information in one go, but hopefully this makes sense. If you have your game up at the same time as watching this video, then you can go through it with me and it will make sense. But you can see what I'm hovering over. So don't be put off by this, because I know it looks like there's a lot of information here, but if you hover over something, it will tell you what it's doing. It will always tell you what it's doing. So going back onto here, so that is just explaining to you what is happening with each crop. As you can see, I've chosen the beans. Then in the last little bit down here, tells you the previous crop, how much you planted, how much you harvested, and how much fertility factor it got, and what crop it is, of course. And then what is currently happening, what is previously done and currently happening. You can also click on the storage. Sometimes if let's say I've just produced a load of beans, the beans get stored in the field, then your labourers come and haul all the beans back to the storages. So sometimes you'll have some beans in storages. You don't want to keep them there too long. If you're noticing that a lot of the food is staying there for too long, it will all just lose its shelf life, so it will just rot, and you won't be actually getting the food from that, so you don't want that. Okay, next, like I say before, if you're looking to produce a certain item of clothing, for example, like flax, then you need to plant flax. If you're looking to make bread in the bakery, then of course you're going to need to produce more wheat, and you're also going to need a windmill as well. But you have to look at certain items in this menu here beside. After you've got the fertility up, weed level down, rockiness down, then you're going to want to produce some stuff. But you have to keep an eye on it. If you start seeing this increasing, this decreasing, and this increasing, you're going to want to go back to that original crop rotation to get it back down. Sometimes I have, let's say for this field, I have my production one, which is going to help me with my bread. Then I have food. Then I go back to a whole year of the crop rotation at the beginning to get all the fertility up and weed levels down. Then I go back to building stuff. So it's always got 1 year out of 3, which will help me keep and maintain this good positive stuff here. Now, as you can see again, as I showed you this one, we're in the red. We're getting no bonus whatsoever. So now if I put it back into the green, my target bonus soil is going to be plus 10%. At the minute I'm getting 0%. So I can get in 10% more by just clicking that over and adding 60 clay into this. I'm getting 10% more food. So you need to keep an eye on that. Click on it and just move it over. Click on it and move it over. That's all you need to do. Click on each field and just move it over. It's as simple as that. Last but not least, in terms of actual crop rotation, mix it up. Like I said a second ago, don't have a full year. Like, let's say this is the end of the year. 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 You see what I've done? I've done it on purpose so I can show you on this video. But see, I've got all workers, a worker, all workers, and then not a lot. I've got one food there. So at the minute, from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fields, I've only got one. Maybe, was it 2? No, yeah, I've got one field which is producing some beans in 1 year, only on the second year. Every other field is doing workers, and workers. This one here is producing one on the first year, so I've got year 1 and 2, but that's the middle of year 1. So I've got year 1 and 2 with only one field each producing food. So at the end of each year, like here, I would notice my food is a lot lower than all the other years. That is because I'm producing food at the beginning and the middle of every other field, but not at the end, because I've got workers. You want to try and get one field, workers on the end. Another field, workers in the middle. Another field, workers at the beginning. So then you're constantly producing food all year round. You don't want to get to a stage where you're producing food only at the beginning of every year and not at the end, because you'll have loads of food at the beginning. Then you'll go to the end of the year when you have nothing, when you actually need the food. Then you're going to have loads again. Loads, back to nothing. Loads, back to nothing. So that's everything pretty much about farming. To keep an eye on your farming, you go up here to where the food stores are. You can click on that, and then it will give you an in-depth sort of what is happening with your food. So you've got all the protein, all the meat, smoked meat, and all that stuff. You've got grains, vegetables, fruit, and dairies. So all the information is here. Grand total, this is what you need to pay attention to more than anything. Green line and blue line is the most important. Green line always have to be above the blue line. If the blue line's above the green line, then that means you're consuming more than you're producing, which means, obviously, evidently, you're going to be decreasing in food each year, and eventually, you're going to run out. This will happen when your population is too big for how much food you're creating. If you see this decreasing, if you see the blue line starting to get above the green, build another field, whack some more food on it. Or don't take any more people, like if you get an immigration wave, don't take them, or take them and then use that immigration wave into the farm, into building and making more food. That's what I do anyway. But you can see exactly what is produced of every single item. So if I click on fruit, you can see exactly what fruit is being produced, or a grand total, how much is consumed of that certain thing, and how much is going to be spoiled. So for me, I haven't, although I've got spoilage, that is because I haven't got enough people to actually eat all the food that I'm producing. So if I click on vegetables, which is the only thing spoiling, it's mainly my beans. I've got just under 3,000 beans that are spoiling. So as you can see, the spoilage rate at the bottom down here, keep an eye down here, the spoilage rate at the bottom is quite high. Now if I click back off that and just go on normal, my production line is higher than the blue line, which is fantastic. I've sort of always needed this much food, so I keep it steady. That's because you take your time. If you rush the game, then this blue line you'll see have a big spike. You don't want to see that happening. That means you've taken way too many people and not produced nowhere near enough food. So you want to keep that blue line nice and gradual as much as you can. And this one you want to try and spike up. See, I've got close here. Right, I started off enough. I sort of rushed it a little bit. This was when I did that video. If anybody saw the video, I was in a bit of a food crisis here because I was producing less than I was consuming. And then I made a field, which then I produced a lot more than I needed. I kept going. My population increased. I got to sort of here when I thought to myself, yeah, that's getting a bit close. I need to put more food. As you can see, I did more food. It went back down again. It got close. I thought, yeah, I need to produce more food and produce more food again. That is all you need to do. Keep an eye on it. And if this spoilage rate, I know it's spoiling quite a lot now, but that's because I've got a big population. Not enough people can eat it. But if this spoilage rate is increasing quite high in terms of it gets too close to that blue line, one of two things is happening. You haven't got enough storages. These are my upgraded root cellars. You haven't got enough storages, like they're all full. Or your population is eating cannot eat all the food that you're producing, which is basically what is happening to me. Where is it? So that's basically what is happening to me. I haven't got enough people to actually eat it, so I need to. So basically, though, that means that you can safely take on immigration waves and more people without having to worry about food. So you want that spoilage rate to be a little bit high, because then that means you're sort of in the safe zone for food. To be fair, storage full, storage full, storage full, storage full. So all my out of 3, 4, 5, out of 5 storages, 4 of them are full. So to be fair, mine's probably a storage problem as well as population. But in terms of this map, it was just rushed a little bit so I could show you this video. If you hover over it instead of clicking on it, you'll see exactly how much you've got of certain things, how much months worth of storage you got, and how much months are going to go to spoil. But anyway, guys, that is everything from me from this video. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully you've got a bit more information. If you did, please leave a thumbs up and leave me a comment on the video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.